What's up, everyone? Episode 5 of Immortal Minds is here, and today we'll be talking about Breach. And I think that's going to be very interesting. I feel like it's more exciting than some of the agents we've had, and we've got a lot to say. We've got lots of clips. It's going to be a really clip-heavy segment. But of course, we've got Sean and Mike joining me as always. So, how you guys doing, Sean? You feeling okay?
I've felt better. I'm not gonna lie, Dan. I've been going through some shit the last 48 hours, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it, and I think we have like a lot of cool shit to show for Breach today.
Yeah, for sure. How have you been doing, Mike? How's the ladder been treating you?
Reclaimed Immortal after deranking, so that was a stress fest of like 5 games to get that back, but we're back now.
Nice. Awesome. It's good to hear. That I feel like we have some integrity to be called Immortal Minds. Although we're not all there yet. Anyway, quickly moving on. So I wanted to actually start today's discussion around the maps. Actually, there was that video that went around, which I feel like became somewhat viral within the Valorant community, and it was only like it's like less than 10 minutes where someone from the community is just talking about map design, and he feels from kind of just the theory of map design that the Valorant maps aren't designed in a way that feels like there's redundancies. A lot of things don't feel very well thought out, and I think he kind of puts into words some of the awkwardness we feel as players running around the maps. Was this something that you saw, Sean? This video that I'm talking about?
I didn't see this video, but yeah, I've seen the topic brought up numerous times on Twitter, and I've actually brought it up too. It's just it feels like you always need the same abilities to take control of certain areas of the maps, and it's very easy for players in pubs to just be like, okay, this is what we're doing this round. Like everyone's doing the same thing. And I think it'll eventually change once the attacking side solves, the constant resmokes on mid. Say like Split, for example. Everyone just put in B that's really, really annoying. He has glitch cams all the time, and they just constantly refresh smokes in mid. But I think eventually the attacking abilities will get to a point where, it breaks through that in public servers. I mean, I can think of several things that breaks through it, but it does feel repetitive. I'm not gonna lie. It seems like you're doing the same things over and over.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I think one of the points made in that video, for example, was just if you look at the way the spawns have been designed, where you have like this big spawn area that's really just a place that you kind of rotate through at certain spots, but it's not really as much of a part of the map as certain other spawn areas have been. If you look at maps like Counter Strike, it's not true in all Counter Strike maps, but if you take like Dust 2 or even a map like Inferno, where it just feels like the spawn is more a part of the map. But then if you really look at it on the face of things right now, Valorant, it does really feel like it's just super out of the way and just almost like it's just not it was just kind of slapped down there as an extra bit. It's like, okay, this is where they have to spawn. I know that you watched that video as well, Mike, and you've been quite kind of vocal on this. Like, what are your thoughts on the whole map thing?
I think just like the lack of verticality, except for Split, just makes some of the maps kind of boring because it's kind of the same. Like in the video, he uses the whiteboard theory, where it's like you have a bunch of like corners with narrow entryways to sites. So the only like interesting places on the map are like the sites, because everywhere else is like these narrow corridors that you have to spend a bunch of utility to take. And some people I know have been just talking about how they feel like so cramped they don't have like a lot of wiggle room to like do stuff because you're just like in these narrow corridors the entire time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely something that I definitely feel it. I think that's like one of the interesting things about this video. The guy did take a lot of theory from the mapping community, and I think the mapping community is pretty incredible in Counter Strike. Actually, we have a lot of really good mappers and a really strong community in the map core guys. And I've been very fortunate over the last few years actually to be one of the judges on the various map core map making competitions they have, and it's always really impressive to me the kind of level of design that comes out of a lot of those mappers. So I'm curious to see what the changes may be in that, and like because that would just change the feel of the game completely. Given that the game is already very enjoyable, I feel like and it's also a beta. I'm curious what Riot's response will be to some of this, whether they agree with it or whether they'll kind of just keep on making the maps with a similar philosophy.
Yeah, I think so. When the game first came out, maybe even in the first episode, I said I hope they keep the maps to like three for a while and focus on the agents because there's so many variables that I think having a lot of maps would be a problem. I'm actually going to 180 on that. I think they need to have new maps now. I think the maps could make this game significantly better, actually. I think the maps are probably the most frustrating part of the entire game in my eyes. Even with the peaker advantage, even with, all the problems with the rank system, the cheaters, the Cypher glitch cams, all that stuff. I want new maps. Like I think there's not enough space to move around given how big some of these abilities are. Another interesting uh, topic that I'm not sure if you saw this tweet from Steele. He suggested removing ultimates. I had never thought about that. But when you think about how this game would feel without the ults in it on a competitive level, it would be pretty sick actually. Like the ults really take over the game, but then you run into the problem of like what's the point of the ult orbs? Like there's a lot of things that that the game kind of revolves around having these ultimates. But I think it would be super fun to play a game of Valorant without the ultimates. I don't know if I would like it more or less. It's just a cool little thought experiment.
It is really interesting because if you look at like if everything was if you had more open areas and areas that felt like more connected and like there was more verticality and stuff, I feel like there would be a lot of mitigating factors to the ultimates. Because for one, if you have more space, then the ultimates won't be able to like you won't be able to like breach out an entire bomb site, which is pretty much
Yeah.
true of almost every single bomb site in the game. Or Viper's ult is not going to cover the entire bomb site in a post plant and stuff like that. I feel like just sites that have different geometry and architecture would mitigate that. Plus, extra verticality, as Mike was suggesting, does actually change
Yeah.
things pretty significantly. And I was also kind of surprised by this. I think one of the best maps that we have in Counter Strike is Overpass, and I think one of the things that Overpass does really well is the way that it does handle verticality, even if it's like very simple. It's
Yeah.
just like that it's the steps up to the party area, and then all of a sudden you're in a slightly elevated area, and so on and so forth. Um, I think it does that really, really well in terms of kind of creating a lot of opportunities for the players to do various things at various points of the map that feel kind of dynamic. And right now we've played a lot of Valorant, and it feels like the maps are getting repetitive already. And that's like
Yeah.
an interesting feeling as well because in Counter Strike, Dust 2 has been, I've been playing Dust 2 for 20 years. And it's to some extent there's a repetition there, but it's 20 years and I can still play a
Yeah.
game of Dust 2 and not really feel like I'm annoyed by playing Dust 2.
It's really weird that major areas of maps and certain rounds are just almost unplayable, right? Like if you're playing split and the other team has a brimstone that has an ult and you're in ropes, you're so vulnerable. Like you don't want to be in ropes that round. But what if he doesn't use his ult, right? He could just sit on it. And then what? You're just never going to play the ropes area until that brimstone uses his ultimate. Or what about, playing bind in U-Haul? Same scenario. Like a brimstone has his ult, you feel so vulnerable because you can get caught in that ult so easily, right? I don't like that aspect of the map design specifically. I think it really makes certain ultimates overpowered. Like you said, Viper's ult can just take over an entire bomb site. Same thing with the breach ult. And I think that needs the ultimates and the maps need to go like they need to be tied together a little bit more than they are right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm super curious what they'll come up with because we've only seen 3 maps. I feel like we could really see. I mean, we'll see what their response is, I suppose. But moving the discussion forward, unless you guys have anything to add on the maps discussion, I wanted to talk also about kind of the different experiences in competitive right now because I feel like I feel like the experience between like having a 5 stack yourself or solo queuing is pretty vastly different. Like I feel like I'm stacking in a 5 queue, which we've done a few times together. It feels like the games are worse sometimes than solo queuing. Do you get that feeling? I don't know if I'm just crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I messaged you this privately a couple days ago. It's like I don't know if I want to 5 stack anymore. My expectations of like what we should be capable of are so high, and the ability to communicate all that stuff on the fly, it just isn't possible, right? So I need to lower my expectations a lot. Otherwise, I end up really frustrated. I saw Launders tweet something similarly, actually, is that he gets very frustrated in Valorant when he's losing. And I'm the same way. Like, I get so frustrated because there's so many things you can do to like win around. Like, there's so many abilities to push people off angles and take control of areas of the map. And it's very easy to see someone not do something and get very upset, right? But I don't know, because you don't really know what they're thinking in their shoes. It's a very frustrating game. I'm not gonna lie. It's very frustrating to see people not use abilities, especially the people like Cyphers and Sovas that have a lot of information that don't act on it, or the duelists that don't engage at the start of the rounds. There's a lot of things that can frustrate you, for sure.
Yeah, I think especially at the level, like let's say if you're like diamond to immortal, like you could make the argument that Valorant rank that's going to be maybe like top 200. I don't know how it actually will work, but presumably like the way those rankings usually work is that rank is like a top 200 rank. So the diamond and sort of immortal ranks would be where it would be, I think, higher expectation where you're thinking about like the level 10s or something if it's like face it or whatever. And I think it is, as you say, like really, really. It can be irritating if people will choose an agent at those ranks and not really perform any of the duties that are expected of that agent in a composition. So, like, if you have, I think the thing that's most obvious is when people pick a duelist, especially someone like
Mhm.
Jet, and then play like really defensively and are not like really using the agents in the role in which they're kind of designed to be used, which kind of like messes up the composition pretty enormously. Or like or someone picking us over, but not really knowing, not really putting any work into the arrows and stuff. That's fine if you're playing unrated or whatever, but it's kind of a weird thing to see so commonly at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think communication is super important, right? So like if you're a jet main and you're playing ranked, right? And you find yourself last alive and you're like, "Oh, well, it's because my teammates don't wait for me to open up rounds and blah blah blah." Well, if you're playing a jet in ranked, you should probably have some ideas in your head for how you want to open up rounds. Like if you see a Brimstone, you ask him to smoke. Say you're playing bind, right? You're like, "Okay, Brim, I want you to early smoke right side mid on defense and I'm going to dash peek the left side," right? Stuff like that. Like you need to take initiative. You are the person that should be opening up the rounds. And that's why people find a lot of frustration when they see Jets on their team right now. It's because they don't communicate those things. Ciphers and Sovas kind of get away with a lot right now because they they have the capability to literally just take over a game, but a lot of people haven't seen that happen, right? Like they haven't seen someone that knows the arrows all throughout the map or knows the places that they should launch drones, and then when they should ult when the drone hits someone. Like those information agents could literally just dominate a game, right? But right now all you see is a Cypher just nesting in B side of split, playing really selfishly, actually, because that Cypher could actually set up a tripwire like in mid or in heaven that could really, really help his teammates out, right? But he's not doing that. He's just using all of his shit inside the B site. And once people start realizing that kind of stuff, those informant agents are just going to dominate the game, in my opinion. Like they're just going to be so good.
So one thing I wanted to highlight as well is something that Dizzy tweeted yesterday, I think, or the day before, where I think he made a comment on Twitter, which was, "I want to improve and get better, but I feel like fights in Valorant are inconsistent." And I think this is something that I've felt for quite a while, that the gunplay feels quite inconsistent. I just shared a clip with you guys recently where it's like I'm standing perfectly still with the dot crosshair, so there's really no there's really no guesswork in where the bullets are going, and a breach. I'm shooting a breach in the heads, and you see like the animation of hitting him in the heads, and there's like it just telling me that they're torso shots and stuff. It's like stuff like this, as well as like I guess the FPS issues and the net code and stuff. Like Mike has an amazing clip where he got one shot by a guy who was literally flying off the ropes. You can see that if you pause it, you can see that the guy hits him with the first bullet when he's midair, like
Midair,
coming
yeah.
off the ropes. And it's like stuff, and that's like a probably a netcode, like an anti-lag backwards
Mhm.
reconciliation issue and stuff. So, so there's a lot of like this inconsistency. It is closed beta, but like, what do you make of this so far?
Oof, yeah. I think they said they were gonna work on the whole netcode thing and the weirdness of, I guess, interpolation. I don't know what it is, to be honest, but it is very, very weird. Like I noticed we've discussed, how the camera angles changed. I can't remember which episode it was. Was it the Omen episode where we talked about, the further away you are from an angle because the camera is
Yeah,
in the center of your head. Obviously, the further you are away from an angle, the better, right? In CS, it's the right eye peak, blah blah blah. In this game, it's a little bit different. Um, but it still feels like people that peek into you have an advantage a lot of the times, and it feels really weird. And the registration feels very off sometimes, right? Like you're like, what the? How did I hit that guy one time? And then other times it's like, holy shit, I hit that guy 5 times in the chest. Like it really didn't seem that like I hit him 5 times in the chest. Like sometimes that happens to me. Like I'm like, wow, I didn't even think I hit that guy, and I just destroyed him. It happens a lot in Valorant, and I think they have a lot of work to do on that end. It is beta, like you said. I think they have tons of developers working on this right now, so I have high hopes that it will get fixed. But yeah, the gunfights are so random. They're so random because obviously, as like a competitor, I always want to win more than 50% of my gunfights. That's how you develop consistency, right? And right now, if I were to just peek an angle, like I don't know. I think I'd probably literally, it'd be a coin flip. It'd literally be 50-50, right? And I can't figure out sometimes how I should peek angles, whether it's I should Y peek them, should I crouch peek into them, should I walk peek them? It doesn't matter. It's just always it always feels 50-50 to me.
yeah, I definitely agree with you. That's something I've been wrestling with personally as well. I was talking to my stream at length about like how do you figure out like what's a good a good decision in terms of picking fights. Like the advantage, the idea of like the principles of advantage feel a little bit, the lines are a little bit blurry right now, and it's hard to kind of figure out. But with that said, it is time to move on to a segment we had last week, which I thought was really cool and you guys seem to enjoy, which was the Ask Us Anything segment. So feel free to throw some questions in chat at us, and we will answer all of your questions. Um, we're also waiting for some questions to come in, Sean. I'll ask you a quick question, which is one of the things Mike was raising to me recently was this idea that how do you feel about the way people are picking compositions right now? Because people seem to be picking extremely defense heavy compositions that may not
Mhm.
be as good. You may not get nearly as like that many rounds on attack, but you're trying to bank on getting like 8 to 10 rounds on offense on defense.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, it's really interesting because I'm someone that sometimes just insta locks an omen and people get really triggered. People do not like when I pick omen sometimes. Um, I what I've come to learn is when I think my team has a shit comp and we start on defense and we get steamrolled, we can typically like come back and win actually. Like a lot of the times. It's very interesting. It's just like you said, everyone has like the idea of stacking rounds on defense, but sometimes when even I think my team has a shit comp, like a Phoenix, a Jet, Mia's Omen, like no Sage, I don't know, just all across the board. It's really weird. Um, we will be able to stack rounds on attack because we have a very unique play style that probably the other team hasn't seen. And also, it makes me play hyper aggressive, right? Like where I'm just double teleporting into sites, like trying to open stuff up, and it actually works out more often than not. It's shocking, because even if I were to design a comp, I would never do that. Like I never tell people what to pick when I play with them in rated because or ranked because I think they should pick whatever they want, whatever they're comfortable with. Um, it's cool. Like I honestly like the fact that every time I play a game, it's not like, oh fuck, we have these 4 agents. Looks like you have to be Sage. No choice, man. You gotta pick her. You gotta pick her. We need Sage. So I agree. I like seeing the different comps. What do you think about it?
I'm just yeah. For me, I think it's interesting. I think things will always be defense sided until people figure out how to play the attack,
Yeah.
and I think that this will be even more polarized right now, just because it is a lot easier to figure out how to defensively deal with stuff. But the ultimates do throw a wrench into the works. I just want to see some new maps which may actually favor a more aggressive playstyle, and kind of maybe the defensive utility is not as strong on those new maps. I think they'll have a lot of play with that. But in terms of the first questions, we've got, let's see, here's an Omen one. You're just talking about Omen. Do you think Omen's flash needs a buff? From Henrez.
Uh I don't. We did a whole episode on Omen. I think it was like 2 episodes ago, maybe our third episode, and I think his flash is actually really, really good. It's just people that play Omen haven't figured it out yet. Uh, so basically, it gets better the further it goes. So if it travels it travels through a wall, it projects out like a cone, right? So the further it goes, the wider diameter or radius, I guess, whatever word you want to use, it would blind more people. People are trying to use it to clear close corners, and it just doesn't work that way. So once people start figuring out that they need to flash for teammates further away and through the walls, you're going to realize how good the Omen flash is.
I actually didn't realize that it, like, I need to actually look at that. I didn't know that it cones so much. Is it like a really big difference?
Yeah, I'll find a clip for you really quick.
Oh, okay, you got a
One
clip.
sec.
Nice. Okay, so I'll grab the next question then. We talked about aim punch a little bit, but we can definitely readdress it. From typical Joshua, he says, "Do you like getting aim?" I like the way this is phrased. Do you like getting aim punched so hard even when using full armor? Sometimes I personally think that the aim punch doesn't really add too much to the game as a mechanic. I think it's, for me, it kind of seems like a comeback mechanic in the sense that it doesn't really help the guy that's got a vandal or an operator or a phantom so much, but it does help the guy that's got a pistol or something that it doesn't cost nearly as much. And I feel like it evens the playing field too much, because you should have the advantage if you have a good economy. Um, Obviously, that's backwards thinking, but I think the point of a system where you have an economic choices to make, it means that you should have a reward for doing well and having more money. And I feel like this damages that too much. So that's my personal take on the aim punch mechanic. And I also think it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end of it,
Yeah.
because it feels like you can't do anything and it doesn't feel consistent. And when you can't, it can never like prepare for it.
Yeah, so I posted that clip to the chat, but yeah, I agree. I mean, dude, aim punch is so frustrating. Like it's really frustrating in this game. I haven't had it happen too much lately. Um, but when it does happen, you're just like, this is a broken mechanic. This can't be in the game like this. This needs to be fixed.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm sure that they must surely address it at some point. I'll be really curious to see how it goes. I mean, one of the things too is that for us, because we're playing so much, it does feel like everything is a really hugely glaring issue, and we do have to remember, it with CS:GO, it was a game that had already been around for like many like decade, a couple decades when it came out, more or less. Well, just short of that, 15 years, but it did take 2+ years for it to slowly iterate and get to a spot where it was actually like a really good game. So the next question is from Gavetron. Do you think that ranked should be more hardcore? The fact that you can see how much money the other team has anytime is crazy to me.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So, um, I do think friendly fire should be on in ranked. That's one thing I think should be on. I was playing ranked yesterday, or I guess like 2, 3 days ago at this point. Um, someone on my team had the idea to just literally peek something in a line. Like in CS, you would never think to just double peek an angle because the potential being doubled and like the guy in the back can't shoot. But in this game, it doesn't even matter. Like, yes, you could get doubled, but you could both be peeking the same angle at the same exact time, which is because you could just shoot through the guy in front of you. There's no friendly fire. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't think that that should be in the game. I think people should definitely be able to TK their teammates if they make a bad play and shoot the wrong spot, blah, blah, blah. I like the idea of seeing the other team's money, but not having it live update. I think it's really cool. Adds a layer to the game that I really enjoy. Because there's a lot of stuff you need to take it to account in this game that's different than Counter Strike, right? If the economy was just a black box and we had no idea what the other team had money wise, not only is it's equally as difficult as it is in Counter Strike, right? Where you have to do all this math for like all 5 players. Did they have an op last round? I don't know. If we won 2 rounds in a row, blah blah blah. Like, did we reset them? But you also have to take into account like how much the abilities cost for each player. It becomes so difficult. Like, there's too many variables to like actually do those kind of calculations like live in a game. So I think this is a good compromise, and I like the fact that I can see the other team's economy.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of it too in this game because there are so many variables. I think that one of the things that we had in the older, like let's say in 1.6 or whatever, like you can't see the money. It's actually you don't even have what we have in CS:GO, which is like this scoreboard where you can kind of like calculate it and work it out. I feel like that's in a game like this, it's one of those things where it's an annoying thing for people to have to learn to do. Most people are not going to probably do it, or it will take a while for people to get good at doing it. And it feels like an artificial element added to the skill ceiling. Like you could remove it, and it doesn't really impact the game very much because at the elite level, people read that stuff pretty damn well. And at the lower levels, like now that those players have more to work off of, they can actually more easily understand the game. So I actually think it actually serves both the like super competitive level and the more casual level to not just have this thing added in. And this is like a wider discussion point because if you look at like some of the older games, you could make the argument that these things can add more tension and so on and so forth. But I think that likewise, we're seeing the ultimates you have to know as Sean was saying if Brimstone hasn't already. Otherwise, the game would be extremely random. Like I think the way this game is set up, especially with the way they have the spawn barriers and so on, is they're trying to remove that inconsistency, that guesswork. They want the guesswork to be they want the guesswork to be from the players making decisions in the round. They don't want the guesswork to be anywhere else. So I kind of like that approach personally.
Yeah.
Um,
So someone did say, "Do I think that, or do we think that when you die with your abilities, you lose them?" I think you should. Like, I actually think that if you're going to invest into those abilities and you die without using them, you should be punished for that in rank. I understand that in unranked or whatever, like some non-competitive mode, you get them for the next round, but that's how you create a high skill ceiling, right? That's how you force people to use abilities. You force them to synergize. You force them to work together. Because if you buy this shit and you lose it, you have to rebuy it. And then that will really separate the good players from the bad players. I think that is like almost a necessity in rank.
Yeah, so I completely agree with this. I think that that would actually be a really good change to make, and I think if that change was made, I wouldn't want to maybe tweak some of the costs because I think some of the current costs of abilities is actually a little bit out of like it's a bit crazy. Like Breach's aftershock is 100 credits. I think that's mad. I think that's so mad. And we're going to see we're going to talk about that in more detail a bit later on. But there's also other agents that have extremely cheap abilities that are extremely good. It feels like in a way that doesn't really match up with how some other agents have abilities that are extremely expensive. Um, and then they don't seem as good. So
Ooh, someone asked, do I think the bomb timer needs to be reduced? Coming from CS, it seems to take forever. That is true. It does seem to take absolutely forever. Like, it literally seems like a team could walk from the A bomb site on split to the B bomb site on split and still have adequate time to retake the site. Like, they have a lot of time. And part of that is because, abilities will stall you out forever. But if they lowered the bomb timer, obviously the game would become more attack sided. Would you like that, or would you prefer it remain the way it is, where it's more defense sided right now because of the bomb timer?
So this is a super interesting point because I think that and I started to learn this well, I know from playing the game a lot. I always have a lot more time than I think, and I think like my internal clock because of CS is like there's much more urgency with making plays. But it seems to be the case that maybe they've designed this in a way where they want like if a team takes a site, they want you as a team to make the decision. We're gonna invest whoever we have to defend the site then we're just going to spend the next 20 seconds rotating everybody to set up the attack. So like it's almost like a more coordinated thing that is possible than in Counter Strike. And with the abilities and so on, it seems like that's just maybe the flow that they wanted, as opposed to in CS where you're gonna try to like if you can pressure so that the other team can't get good post plant positions, like stuff like that. You want to try to do that. You want to try to get that early pick. You want to, you know, what you want to make life easier for your teammates coming in. You don't want to give the other team all that time to set up, get information, get like super optimal post plants, clear stuff. In this game, like the way the bomb sites and retakes work is quite different. So maybe that's what the game is supposed to be in the eyes of the developers. It's supposed to be these super coordinated retakes, and the attackers aren't as invested in going for like clearing more position than in CS.
Mm.
That
Yeah,
could be
it's
one
it's
way.
it's crazy. I find myself like, say it's Haven, and I'm like rotating from like C or Garage, and I'm gonna retake the A site that the attacking team took. Oftentimes, it's like, all right, I gotta wait out this Brimstone smoke, and then the Brimstone smoke fades, and an Ice Wall comes up, and then a slow comes, and it's like, all right, now I've got like 12 seconds to retake this site. If they lowered the bomb timer, I would have literally no time. The game would be very, very attack sided if they lowered that bomb timer. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's like what, I don't know if that would make a better game, honestly. I think it would make it very frustrating. It would feel like you could never retake a site. You would blame whoever's playing that site. You're like, dude, holy shit, Sova, you got to hold the fucking A site, man. You got to tell us to rotate. You'd get very upset because you'd get locked out the site and you would feel like you could never, ever win rounds. So I think it kind of needs to be high just based on what the abilities cost and, like how much abilities are just dumped at the choke point when you try to retake right now.
I think we kind of just touched on here like one of the perhaps like most maybe one of the most difficult areas of balance in the entire game design philosophy because as you say like imagine how strong set pieces would be if the bomb timer was less. Like there's
Yeah.
so many ways to just like just buy a bunch of abilities and so on, and also from a map design perspective, like how strong like certain site takes could be. Like let's say it's extremely hard to if a team wants to take B on binds, like and they set up for it. It's you can't really stop it. Like you can't stop it. It's gonna happen. So and they can just set piece that pretty easily. Like you know you can have a meta where maybe you have like a CYPHER and whoever else is super good at delaying like a Sage there. But still, like then that becomes a bit boring and predictable because you don't have options. You have to have the best defensive agents on that site. And then it creates this like really like I think stale gameplay. It's a bit one dimensional and not what they were after. So it doesn't seem like unless they change the way the economy works, like you were suggesting, Sean, where the abilities cost more and you lose them each, you know, if you die, that would change that. So I think there's like all these things are really interconnected. I think that's a really interesting question as to how they balance all that stuff. What do you
Yeah, there's
what
a
do you
lot
think?
of depth to that question.
Yeah, Mike, do you have anything to throw in there? Because I think this is a really interesting one.
I think like primarily why the bomb timer might be longer is just like think about flanking on a retake on any map in CS. That takes way less time to do than it does in Valorant. Like if you're trying to flank from mid to T side A on split, you have to walk all the way through sewers. You gotta walk all the way up A ramp. That just takes so much time off the clock. And since there's no kits in this, but there is like the halfway defuse, the full defuse like 7 seconds, so that's compared to like 5 seconds with a kit or 10 seconds without a kit in CS. So there's just like, I think the movement speed mostly like just trying to reposition yourself to actually get in a position to crunch the site.
Yeah. I think you can hear people running really far in this game. Like
Yeah, it's
I feel
nuts.
like maybe it's because the walls are so like close together. Like people running in sewers, say like on split when I'm on defense playing like A, I could hear them so far away. Like if they're coming A late round and they're like coming from mid or B and they're trying to, they have to just run all the way back to my site. I hear them the entire way. And that's a little bit painful, right? Like then that means if I'm flanking and I'm on defense and I'm flanking the other bomb site, they could hear me if they're in the other bomb site, right? So it makes flanks take forever. Like the whole sound aspect in this game is very interesting. I feel like I can hear so many things like from just such a far distance. Such a far distance.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one to see if they might tweak that or not. because I agree. It does take a lot of the suspense out of certain situations. Um, and so, with that said, though, I think we've come to the end of today's Ask Us Anything segment. As always, though, if you have questions you really wanted to hear us answer and we didn't get to them, feel free to tweet them at us. Just tag me and Sean in the tweet, Mike as well, and hashtag Immortal Minds so that we definitely see it. And we'll endeavor to if we get like an influx of quite a few questions, we'll always just record a short video to answer all of them together, and we can throw it up on the YouTube. If not, save it for the next episode. Either way, now we're going to get into taking agency with Breach, and we've got a lot of Breach clips.
Mhm.
And Breach, I think when we were going through this, we knew that he was essential and we knew that he was very good. But I think when we kind of really looked into it, is it fair to say, Sean, we really feel like he's got the best kit in the game? He's the best agent in the game.
I think he's the best agent in the game. Yeah. So people would argue maybe Sage, but Sage can't create her own opportunities as well as Breach. Like I think Sage is just as essential like on a team comp level. Like if I were creating like an esport team or something like that, I would want like a main Sage all the time. But Breach can I feel like Breach can dominate solo queue way more so than a Sage could. Like if I were grinding solo queue all the way to Immortal, I would pick Sage. 100 or I'm sorry, I'd pick Breach. I meant to say Breach. I don't know why I said Sage. Uh yeah, he has so many things in his kit that can clear out angles and help his team and help himself if he wants to.
Well, to quickly to see if you guys can help yourselves when you're playing against Breach. It feels like when Breach flashes, I've always tried to turn away, but never really made it. And so we tested. We have this first clip which is testing Breach's flash. So if you actually are able to dodge it, and also how dodging it works. So you can see here we're trying to make that work, and you can see you get flash for a very short period of time. But the way that this worked from us testing it was basically when it goes off, it has to be on your screen, as you can see. It actually has to be on your screen. So if it's not on your screen at all, you won't get you won't get blinded by it. It's not actually as punishing in some respects as flashbangs might be in CS, where a flashbang can actually be above you and it's not on your actual screen, but it will full blind you. So there is some
Yeah.
hope if you are if you're getting a full rush by a breach in his team.
Yeah, in CS you could find flashes that basically just like pop the second they hit a corner, right? So like people literally cannot turn from a flashbang. Any breach flash you throw is going to sit on the wall for a second, right? So someone would be able to turn from it, which honestly, sometimes it feels like that's not the case. I don't know if it's some kind of glitch that happens or like maybe it's something with the net code. Because yeah, like we both felt that way in the server, right? We both felt like we've turned from breach flashes outside of the server and they have still blinded us. But that's not the case actually when we tested it. Like I don't know if it's some kind of glitch where sometimes you just get full white. Um, but yeah, it seems like you can dodge them. But with that being said, like it's still by far the best flashbang in the game.
Yeah, it's definitely so strong. It lasts a lot longer than Phoenix's. It's just so crazy. It feels like because you can throw it from a very big distance. It feels like that's something that might get tweaked as well, because it seems like he has no limitations almost. It feels like it's so he can just flash anything from any point on the map, which makes for some really interesting stuff as we'll see later on. But in this next clip, we're going to see Sean just showing one of the reasons why Breach is pretty sick. It's just there's so many spots, and this is going to be on the B bomb site on Bind. There's so many spots where you can just create a defense with Breach because he can daze people, he can flash them from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, like you could just be holding your spot, right? And say you had like a cipher tripwire in the window or like right when they jump out or even a cipher camera that just tells you if someone comes out of hookah, you could literally just be waiting. You just wait here with both of these abilities and then you just wide swing, right? That fault line gets all through hookah. Like it goes so far, so far. We're going to keep showing you guys how insane these ability sets are. It's unreal. It's actually unreal. The things you could do with Breach, it, it seems like he's by far the best equipped player to stop hits coming his way, the best equipped player to, like clear out, maybe not clear out areas, maybe some of like maybe like Sova or something would be better at that. But I'd be hard pressed to like make an argument like over breach with any agent. I'll say that. Like he is really good at doing everything.
Yeah, if you have a team, if you have teammates, like I think a Sova is, I think Sovas are really essential because if you see like really good Sovas, they are able to get actually so much extremely crucial information that can win you rounds. And it's just about like if you're able to act upon that info at that point in time. And so this next clip is something like this where we have a Sova. Like the idea is that you get a Sova that fires a hookah drone in in on binds to kind of clear out these close positions and basically give the breach the info he needs.
I don't even remember which one are we showing right now?
So yeah, we're showing basically like if you have a Sova drone, we
Oh,
don't actually show the
yeah.
Sova drone, but if the Sova drone's going through
Yeah.
hookah and clearing close
Okay.
positions.
Yeah, so like the Sova drone would clear out that close angle, and then you literally, if you find out anyone is anywhere, right? Like you use basically that's what, yeah. So you find out anyone is anywhere, whether it be with like a Cypher cam or a Sova drone or a Sova arrow. You just have your breach or whatever just standing there with his fault line ready to go. Like he's just ready. That person has to leave that angle, or they are just totally screwed. They're totally screwed. Uh, it's so insane. It just seems like free kills, free entrances into bomb sites if your breach actually coordinates properly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is one of the reasons why um Sovas are so important. Like when if you're someone that is a Sova player, you like Sova as an agent, really spend the time figuring out how you can work with your teammates, how you can call for them, how you can because there will be a lot of people you'll run into in matchmaking and you'll be able to win rounds off stuff like this. If you can say to your server, hey dudes, I've got a really cool setup. If you can use your drone on this position and either because there will be some bomb sites whereby if you can figure out that there are not players in certain positions, that then leads you to understand how to attack that site. So then you know how to direct your breach. Or maybe it is the case that in this situation, oh, no one's actually hookah, but it did get that spot on someone playing that cubby on the right side, which is really common. Now you have this setup that's going to be really strong to actually deal with that player with that knowledge. So, but without the knowledge, breach isn't as good. Without the coordination, breach isn't as good. And then that's the reason why I think people aren't really seeing his maximum value just yet. And we have the next clip coming now, which is going to be just showing. We're going to begin to show the power of the aftershock, and this is something that I'm beginning to see more and more. We're just like denying plants, and using this aftershock for retake situations. And this is something that we were experimenting with. Like, obviously, this is a really easy one. I think it's probably the most common one I've seen.
Yeah.
Um, but there are some more interesting ones which we'll be showing a bit later.
Sorry, yeah, my mic was muted. Yeah, so when I played with Breach for like a couple games, what happens a lot of the times at the higher levels is teams do that ice wall strat where they try to plant the bomb on one of the sites, whether it be like split on B, whether it be bind at A. Haven doesn't really have like one of those ice wall strats, but you could still get the planner in the A site, B site, or C site. You can get them anywhere. And you basically force the team to not plant right away, which or they just die. Whoever the planner is dies to that ability. So either the planner dies to the ability or they don't plant and you spam the ice wall down. One of your teammates is like spamming the ice wall down. So their whole strat goes to shit. Just from one ability. One ability breaks an entire strat technically because it gives you the time necessary to destroy the entire strat. Like it's crazy that ability is so underused right now in ranked. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like so. I think that's actually a super good point because imagine you're playing CS and you're playing Dust 2 and you're on the CT side and you know that the other team is going to be ecoing, right? Like you're going to all of a sudden you have enough context just with that information I gave you. If it's like let's say it's round 3 or something, and you won the pistol, they decided to force buy. Now they're on a full eco. Now you got so much information. There's only like 2 rounds that they could possibly run. that's going to give them value, which they're going to go for. So now you have like a pretty good way to deduce what to expect, and then now you know where the abilities have to be placed, and what you have to save them for, and you also know how to position. And that's also something we haven't come to just yet. Because as Sean's saying here, what's really interesting is if you save your abilities as breach because you're expecting like a play like this, then and that binds short plant play that he's talking about on A reminds me a lot of the dust to catwalk short plant that people might go for with a couple PT50s and a handful of like smokes and flashes. Super low investment, but you can get a bomb plant out of it and maybe a kill or two. And so that's a similar thing. But if you have a breach that and there's a coordination where it's like, okay, they can't push you haul, everyone rotates through spawn, the ice wall's up, but he times it so that the ice as the ice wall goes down, he's delayed the plant with the aftershock. He gets the fault line on the close positions as the wall goes down, and then the flashes come through. All of a sudden, that play is just completely crushed. If you just know what to expect and where the utility is supposed to go, and we're not really at that level just yet, but we will get there, I think.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there. Should we hop into the next clip?
So yeah, we've got this is just I think this is just you Sean just basically just showing how you can enter the A bomb site on bind with all of the breach abilities.
Oh yeah, so you can basically is the thing's called like fault line where
Yeah,
you can go down the entire left, right? All the way into the rotate, like into spawn. Like you could go so far with that thing, blast out the close corners. That way basically it forces them into U-Haul, and then you double flash the site, right? So flash once remember where I threw the flashes actually now. So yeah, you can flash once through there. That blinds the pocket corner, right? So the hard right corner that everyone always plays, and then you can flash again into the site. And people are like, "Well, you can't flash the site because then you're gonna die." Obviously, you have other teammates, guys. They're gonna like smoke the site for you. They're gonna put up a wall somewhere. They're Viper. I mean, literally, there's infinite possibilities almost to get off that second flashbang. Um, it's crazy. Like it becomes as an in-game leader, I look at these four abilities from Breach, and it like gives me nightmares trying to like think about how to stop something like that from coming into the site. Right? You can't allow that person to do that. Like you would have to have a Breach ready with a fault line in reverse on short or some shit. Like it's gonna be like people waiting for that sequence of events to happen and countering it with their own sequence of events. And that's why in the early episodes, I said, you know, the attacker's job is going to be to bleed out abilities from the defense, and then the defense is going to have to sit on their abilities to counter like hits like this. Um, it's going to be really difficult.
yeah. If you imagine that like they were running a default, and that's actually the second fault line. Maybe one was used at the beginning of the round to deny an angle, which allows your team to maybe it's like you allow your team to take showers and have that pressure or something else, and you have bled some utility. Yeah, then stuff like this will become quite strong once teams have these defaults which are running smoothly. Um, so in the next clip, we have aftershock and flashes into short A on Haven. So this is something that Sean found because he's been nerding out on Haven. There's a lot of crazy Haven
Really?
stuff, honestly.
Yeah, basically, like if you're anywhere around the B bomb site as breach, you could do a lot of stuff through this hay wall from both the left and straight ahead where Dan is staring, right? So that one's from inside the B site. The other one is from the the A link outside of the B site. And basically both of these hallways breach could dominate people hitting the A site from, right? Like he with any kind of coordination with a person on short A to the sewers area, they could just own people. They could just destroy people in that area.
Yeah, just imagine the fact that like one of the common pistol strats is to do a short A, or rather a short A and long A split on Haven. The fact that you can have a breach that's like, yeah, cool, man. Phoenix, you just stand short A and you hear footsteps. Just tell me when to flash, and then he can peek with a flash like that. Even if it's Phoenix with his own flash, you want the breach flash because he can basically as he's engaging, it's even better because he can't get blinded by it, whereas they'll get fully wrecked by that flash. So and even if they're not going to that position, breach, as Sean says, like he can do so much on the rest of the map. So it's pretty mad actually. Again, like this is the range of his flashbangs make him super strong on defense as well. And speaking of which, we have the God Flash coming, Sean. That's the next clip, the God Flash that you found. Oh, I think Sean, you're muted. You muted yourself.
Oh, this flash is just so insane. So we found it in like the center of, or like the back of Banana on A Haven, and it basically just goes into the sky, and your teammates could just rush with this flash, and it just seems so it's one piece of utility, guys. Like this is just one piece of utility to clear out the site. Like Breach could also, throw this fault line site, run up, flash behind the site. It's so insane. It just sits in the sky and it blinds everything, it seems like. Obviously, there's certain cubbies inside the A site that wouldn't get blinded by this, but that's what you have other abilities for and other teammates for, right? Jesus.
So there's only like two places that don't get blinded by this flash, or maybe three. So, and those would be the if you're coming from long, the close right corner, that might be a spot, but that's kind of a bad position unless you have an ability to get out of it. The other spot is the short cubby, which you can aftershock from this exact same position. So if you
Yeah.
aftershock that short cubby, then the player who's playing it has to swing out. And so if you have a guy on short, I did this in a lot of matches on my stream recently. It was super effective. If someone plays that short angle, they have to then swing into your teammates who are sitting on short. And so and I had loads of spots where I was doing 100 plus damage, just absolutely wrecking that guy because then he has to take the fight. And if he has to take the fight, he has to stand in it. So he's going to take damage from. He's definitely dying if he plays that position. And the other spot is that other corner next to short. So basically, this. I mean, you can see it blinds hell completely, and also heaven, and also people coming through spawn. It's just incredibly strong. That one flashbang. So that surely has to be that's going to be patched surely because that's actually so strong.
Yeah,
So
it's
strong.
it's it's really broken. It's really broken, especially when you consider the fact that like me as Omen, right? I could just throw a smoke through the wall at the start of the round mid banana. I could throw my flash and we get banana control pretty much for free, right? Like I could teleport across so that way I'm in banana at the start of the round. We could put up a CYPHER camera in spawn in the tree to let us know if you're in banana. We could shoot a Sova arrow banana to let us know if you're in banana. We could pre-slow it over the wall in spawn. There's so many things I can think of off the top of my head to get banana control for free and give Breach the ability to throw that flash, that that needs to be patched out. Like 100%, it needs to be patched out. It can't be there.
Yeah, and again, the aftershock, which can actually just straight kill a fully armored opponent, I believe. I think can do 160 damage. I think
Yeah.
it's 100 credits. It's unreal, actually, how cheap it is and how effective it is. And so the next clip that we have is and from the Haven garage position, and it's going to show some aftershock possibilities from garage window, from C window.
I don't remember like exactly. Oh yeah. So basically, if you're in garage, you could control like where they can plant when they enter the site. You, a lot of people plant in that exact cubby, right? Like that exact one. You can literally kill that guy if he plants there from garage. A lot of people don't know this. You have to wedge yourself in like a specific angle to do it, but it seems really sick to have a breach in garage slash B because there's so much support that someone like this can do. Jesus.
Yeah, and just having like just and here we kind of showed you running out of the garage doors as well because it's like the opportunity. Like if you're in a 1vx and you've got a post plant situation, you've got you basically have a couple spots that you can plant in and play the after plant and it's kind of crazy to be able to play the after plant from this position because of the possibilities to wrap around as well. It's pretty strong for sure.
Yeah. So from that exact corner to, I'm not sure if we have it in here. I'm looking down our sequence of clips. You can also, yeah, you could shoot like the fault line thing through, get the entire cubby outside of the B site. So you know how like people run in through a link into the B site post plant and try to retake the site. People are always holding in that cubby outside of B site. Well, you could fault line that Raj. That's an ability breach recharges. So like you will have time to do it if you just wait, right? Like it seems like it would be impossible to not retake the site if you have a breach on your team that knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can go into the next clip as well, which is going to be a garage to C push. There's going to be a flash that's really nuts. So this is something that I was talking about, just like theory crafting a little bit and saying, like, if you decided to push C long, Breach could fault line. So let's say you have two teammates pushing down C long. Breach fault lines the spot where the attackers might be holding to
Mm,
hold for that push, and then they get to swing, and then the whole team is now looking down towards the attack that's coming from the C long push from the defenders, and then Breach is in garage, and he can throw that flash from garage. That's
Dan,
crazy.
I just got an idea. How mad would you be if you were playing against me and I ulted as Omen into spawn and my breach threw two of those
Oh,
flashes
wow,
and I
yeah.
run out of spawn with flashes like that? I'm in T spawn around running out with flashes from breach. You would be so mad. You would be so mad. It would be awesome.
I've never
Oh
thought
my
about that. That's actually
god,
such
that
a
would be sick.
okay. We gotta troll with that. That's gonna be so good.
Yeah, that's a good troll idea.
And likewise, like that started to get us thinking a little bit like, what else can you do similarly? Because we have the next one we have is actually an A long to mid flash. So this is just going to show how long, how like far you can throw these flashbangs. Oh, hang
Oh,
on,
dude.
this is a different one actually. This is actually a mid one.
Yeah, so this is if you have like a team aggressing A, like on the flank or something, you could flash that A lobby as breach. It's so crazy. Like where nerd ciphers are always camping, looking at their cameras. Sorry, it's always a cipher. Whenever I push A, it's always a cipher. Just how it is, man. But you can basically flash to that wall from like inside the B site, which is crazy.
Yeah, so there's so many times when people like just hold that for the pushes, and I've seen because it feels like really good if you're an attacker to stand up on those elevated ledges. You feel like you have a pretty big
Hmm.
advantage on the short player swinging, and so
Yeah.
if you have like some A aggressions, you could really mess with another team. Like they're like really trying to like hold for your A players aggressing. Well, now you've got a flashbang in there, so you can just devastate them. So yeah, some really interesting possibilities because if you combine that with the other flash that we saw, maybe you have maybe you're pushing C long and you're pushing A lobby. Like what are they looking at? So the next one, just looking at my notes here, is going to be I think the well let's just run it because I'm not 100% sure on my notes here. Let's run the next clip. Okay. Oh yes,
Oh,
this is
it's
the
the
one I was
flashing into
talking
mid.
about previously. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you wanted to aggress B or through garage, you could have a breach push long A at the start of the round potentially, and he could flash through the wall at A to coordinate with his teammates. And you can do it from pretty damn far away. Like you can do it from far away, which is what I was testing when I was like going all the way back by the box. You can't do it from behind the box, but if you had like say your brimstone early smoke front of a banana, uh, then you could pull off something like this, which is pretty cool. Like Brimstone could smoke that off, I think, from somewhere by B. Maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't really played much Brimstone. Mike, you could maybe comment on that.
Yeah, like if you're playing B site or anywhere, you could smoke A link from there or A lobby.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could definitely pull that off. Or you could have an Omen smoke it, but Omen smokes aren't as good.
Yeah, it's just really crazy. Like that flash to me is just amazing. Like there's some super amazing Haven flashes. Breach is definitely super sick on Haven. I mean, it's sick everywhere, but I feel like there's some stuff that maybe we even the devs weren't even thinking about in terms of like how strong Breach is going to be. But let's go to the next clip. I think this is going to be
Oh, it's a similar flash. Yeah.
okay. Short A
It
stuff. Yeah.
it's like more of the same where basically you can flash through all these walls to help your teammates push through. Like if they wanted to aggress in mid, I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity. Even if you were like retaking the B site and your teammates wanted to come out of a garage, that's another opportunity for you to use a flashbang like this, right? There's tons of potential. There's like unlimited potentials with these breach flashes. Like you can do some crazy shit with them.
Yeah, I love like the level of creativity that is possible. There's like going to be there's just like too many possibilities to think about like what you can do. I feel like with CS, there's enough. Like I think you made this point, Sean, where it's like CS is about like trying to play objectively the best possible game in terms of using all the principles to get the most advantages. But I feel like, and I think the way you put it for this game is this game is about like having just how did you put it? Like, I don't even remember how you put it, but basically, it's
Uh,
not about that. There's no one way to play this game. Is was more or less your point.
yeah. So when I watch a CS match, like a pro CS match, I could easily be like, "Oh, they're doing this wrong. They're doing that wrong. God damn it, they should do this. This is what they need to be doing. Like, this is how you need to run a default. This is how you get map control." In this game, I feel like I'm going to be watching professionals play and be like, oh, that's a way to play it. That's a way to play, and they're going to win using this way to play. There's going to be like countless opportunities and ways to win rounds that are correct, and you just have to do one of those. And both teams are going to be doing those. It's going to be really weird because the abilities are so different, and there's so many opportunities with them that there's like countless ways to win around. Whereas in Counter Strike, there's almost like only a handful of ways to win around correctly, right? And you could technically always outshoot your opponents and just win, which is what some teams do. But strategically, when you watch a team like Astralis, they're doing everything at like almost at the best level possible, right? We don't watch Astralis and be like, oh, there could be another Astralis that plays just but completely different, like in by playing like four guys connector. No, that won't happen. Like that, it's weird.
Well, on to the next clip. I think this is this is a garage one. So I think this is just a flash, another flash that you're messing around with. So the fact that you can kind of just you can if your teammate wants to actually like got close to the B doors, they could actually get a flashbang assist from Breach here. Which is that's a
Dude,
pretty cool flash as well because like if you have like I've seen stages where they'll hide their wall to actually get elevation to actually
yeah.
play some of those like high spots on the site.
Dude, you could do a sick B fake into a garage split to C with that flash. Because they would think the breach is by B, but really you're flashing through garage. That'd be pretty sick. Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
It'd be really confusing. It would definitely slow down anyone who's trying to rotate through through the B bomb side as well. It's just I feel like when Breach's abilities hit, it is like a SWAT team. It's just like there's just so much. You're just like actually so panicked and shocked at everything that's happening, and it feels like he can gain so much ground. If you get caught by a flash, it flashes you for so long. It's crazy. So we've got what's the next one? We've got okay. So this next one is something that you were talking about, Sean, where you combine a brimstone with a breach, and this is on splits.
Ooh, I'm not remembering even what I do right here.
So this is like wait for the smoke to fade, then the aftershock comes in, pushes him into the open.
Oh yeah. So this is okay. Now I'm up to speed. So I was basically saying if you have a brimstone that pre-smokes that area of A, you know, people like crossing behind the smoke and getting into that corner. I even teleported Zoman to the other side just to peek from a different angle and throw people off. Well, basically as breach, you can get into the A site and do your aftershock through the wall to clear out that corner, right? That forces the player into that corner into Brimstone's loving arms from top, right? So your Brimstone's just waiting for the breach to shoot the aftershock into the corner as the smoke fades, hands him a free frag. Like there's there's opportunities like this on every map at any spot. But I just wanted to show that like the teamwork between these two agents, I mean, I could do it with an Omen. You could do it with like any character that has a way to smoke and stall people, right? That allows people to cross behind something. Like if I put a sage wall there, I would expect someone to cross to the other side of the sage wall. And then once they shoot the wall down, you could clear it out with the aftershock right into the opera. It's just a really cool idea.
And the next clip is going to be, I think, a super strong flash that we found, which and it's designed to get to be an information play or an aggression towards any attackers that are holding you on the A side of the map. And getting information on this map is super important, and having control of sewers or having any kind of a position towards sewers or those ropes as the attackers is really strong, honestly. And I think that like that flash that we're seeing blinds basically every position. The only one that's safe is ropes, but you can aftershock ropes as well. So there's actually this one flash gets everything if you account for the aftershock that hits the ropes.
Yeah, and if you really wanted to like add layers to this, right? People are like, well, that's a shitty flash. I would never push into that. Well, would you do it if I threw like a brimstone molly over the wall that landed in that back left corner? Would you push into it if I threw a sage slow, like somewhere like in the back? Would you push into it if you had a viper that shot like an acid like somewhere back there that they had lined up? Yeah, you probably would because it would clear out like one or two of the angles, and then everything would be right in front of you. It'd be super easy to push, right? Any kind of coordination with breach, things become so sick. It becomes very difficult for someone to deal with stuff like that. They have to think very quickly on their feet and move out of the way or use their abilities, which people typically aren't doing right now.
It would be really cool to see to see that play with a Phoenix ult, where the Phoenix pops the ult and goes through, or even maybe even better to an extent is if you do have a jet, once that flash is thrown, the jet can dash through any smokes or anything that exists on that A ramp position. And it may be the case that like you may want to throw the brimstone smoke down on that A ramp, which will give them a full sense of security, so that you can make a play like that where then the flash comes in and jet dashes through as everybody's blind. There's definitely a lot of plays that can really get you extra value from the duelists from how breach can initiate for them because his flash is so much better. Like Phoenix's flash is it's not going to get every spot there, but that one flash from breach does. So I think it makes a really big difference. Um, I think and so we have a last clip coming here, Sean. We've got a last clip coming, and this is this was usually I think just saying like how easy it is to basically clear all of the B bomb site with Breach's abilities, especially if he has the ult.
Oh, is this the ult?
I
No,
don't know
this
if
is
you
like
actually ult this clip, but
this is just all the abilities combined when you like aftershock back sight, then you flash through back sight.
Oh yeah. It's like yeah, if you're retaking, right? You have Heaven holding that left side pillar. They clear out under Heaven with some of their abilities. You basically can aftershock backside, double flash in. It's like, where do you hold? Like the other team would have to have counters. They would almost have to. Otherwise, you're retaking this site. Like, and that's what I've found with Breach is that if if the other team doesn't use counter abilities and they're not super prepared to deal with you, you should be able to just clean people up with this character. Like this character will require a lot of teamwork to use, but also a lot of teamwork to deal with. Like if you want to stop him from having a lot of success. And I think Breach is going to be probably like one of the biggest fraggers in this game. Is going to be like Cold Zero, kind of like alive late round, supporting teammates, winning tons of clutches because of his ult. There's whoever plays Breach on esport team comps is going to be very, very impactful. Like probably the most impactful player on the team.
yeah, it just if you just look at this, for example, like what Sean showed there, well, like with those abilities, basically you've cleared the entire site except maybe the hell position. That is so strong that it just tells you, okay, so you need Breach to be able to be in a position where he can always rotate in on a retake. So you don't want him anchoring any site. That's like already some information I think that's completely abundantly clear in this instance. And so having him being able to move around in rotation positions is where you're going to want Breach. And it makes sense for Haven as well. Like we saw all the possibilities from the garage site as well as B because he's able to throw shit from to support his entire team from pretty much anywhere, so long as he's in a central position on the map. So, already I
Yeah.
think we're starting to understand, where breaches should be. And as you say, Sean, like it also seems like he like Sage needs to stay in the rounds as long as possible because of the impact of the signature ability as well as just other retakes and supporting the team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important for him to stay alive in the rounds, like you said. I And it kind of like brings me back to the whole thing of like, I don't know if Breach is like an in-game leader's role or if it's like a secondary in-game leader's role. Like, I don't know who the in-game leader is in this game anymore. Like, I really don't. Like, I don't know which role you play, but I definitely think it probably isn't Brimstone. Like, everyone's like, oh, Brimstone has smokes, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think you could go over where to use those smokes with someone that wants to focus on their crosshair a little bit more, right? Whereas I think this kind of stuff requires a lot of like coordination with the team. Um, Probably if I were to say like the agents for leading, it's probably gonna be like Sova, Breach, potentially, but you would want like a fragging in-game leader if you're gonna be Breach. I don't know, man. Like, there's so many opportunities that it becomes really difficult. Like, I enjoy playing Ohm. It's a lot of fun, and I have universal smokes, and I could in-game lead pretty well on Omen. Um, but holy shit, there's like so many things I feel like I could control as Breach too with these flashes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all develops. Do you guys have any final thoughts though? Because we have come to the end of the show. We've gone through all of the 16 clips that we had on Breach. Any final thoughts?
Oof,
I'm
I
definitely
don't know,
gonna get
man.
wrecked by people stealing our shit now in pubs all the time, so gonna enjoy that God Flash on A Haven.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you see Breach is like one of the least used characters, I feel like, in some of my games. And I think by the time that this actual game launches, like, and it gets out of beta, people are like running because everything's going to get removed, right? Like, you're going to lose all your unlocked characters, like everything you bought, lose that when the game launches. And I think Breach is going to be one of those characters that people like invest into when they have the chance to rebuy characters again, right? Because probably when people first unlocked characters, they did stuff like me where they unlocked like Omen or someone like that. Um, I think now that people start understanding how powerful Breach is, they're gonna unlock him when the game gets actually launched, and we're gonna see a lot more of him in the future.
Awesome. Anything else, Mike?
Nope, just hope I don't derank again. Grind to Valorant. Dan, you got some catching up to do with the rest of
Yeah,
us, but
still diamond scrub. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure to bring this episode featuring Breach to you. Make sure to send us your clips. If you've got any Breach clips or any clips in general, we love receiving all of the stuff that you guys are doing. Make sure to tag Sean and I on Twitter and use the hashtag Immortal Minds so we can absolutely make sure that we don't miss anything. And we'll, of course, the next episode will be next week. And we decided to do CYPHER for next week. Is that correct? We still sticking to our guns
yeah.
here?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
can't
Okay.
wait to just shit on people that play. No, I'm just kidding. They are frustrating to play against, but yeah, we're gonna talk Cypher next week. So be sure to send us your Cypher clips and even your Breach clips from this week, guys. Please, and spread the show. Please spread the show. Engage with the show. Comment on our YouTube channel and stuff.
Yep, the VOD will be going live at 10:30 a.m. PT. If you are just joining and missed it, and you want to catch it on YouTube instead of watching the VODs here on Twitch, and as Sean says, spreading the word would help us a lot. So thanks for those that are already doing it. Thanks so much, guys. We will be signing off. That's all from myself, Sean, Mike, and the rest of the team. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.